State of Mankind. How much do you know? Excerpts from How the Spectre of Communism is Ruling Our World. 127. As cultural exchanges and capital flows expand throughout the world, the various deviant cultural forms that communism has established over the past nearly 100 years, such as modern art, literature, and thought, movies and television, deviant lifestyles, utilitarianism, materialism, and consumerism, are transmitted globally as well. During this process, the cultural traditions of various ethnic groups are stripped of their external forms and severed from their original meaning, resulting in mutated, deviant cultures. While achieving the goal of being profitable, these deviant cultures also rapidly corrupt people's moral values wherever they spread. Globally, the United States is the political, economic, and military leader. This leadership carries over to American culture, which is readily accepted and adopted by other countries and regions. After the Industrial Revolution, with the decline in religious faith in modern society and increasing materialism brought about by technological advances, people naturally drew a direct link between material prosperity and a civilization's strength. Taking advantage of this trend, communism focused its resources on taking down the United States through nonviolent means. After infiltrating and corrupting the family unit, politics, the economy, law, arts, the media, and popular culture across all aspects of daily life in the United States, and after corrupting and destroying traditional moral values, communism made use of cultural globalization to export this corrupted culture. Touted as advanced culture from the United States, this culture spread across the entire world. In the blink of an eye, the Occupy Wall Street movement from New York was shown on the television screens in the remote mountain villages of India. Through Hollywood movies, conservative border villages in Yunnan, China, learned that single mothers, extramarital affairs, and sexual liberation are all normal aspects of life. The ideology underlying the Common Core curriculum created by cultural Marxists was almost instantaneously reflected in Taiwan's secondary school textbooks. Africa, widely regarded as the most backward region in the world, turned out to be the hardest hit by the AIDS epidemic. From Ecuador in South America to Malaysia in Southeast Asia and Fiji in the Pacific Islands, rock and roll became extremely popular. Willy Münzenberg, the German communist activist and one of the founders of the Frankfurt School, said, "We must organize the intellectuals and use them to make Western civilization stink. Only then, after they have corrupted all its values and made life impossible, can we impose the dictatorship of the proletariat." From the perspective of the left, making Western civilization stink is the path toward communism. However, to communism, which is the driving force, corrupting the traditional culture that the divine left for man and having man abandon the divine, is the way to achieve its goal of destroying mankind. If we could compare the deviant culture of the West and the party culture of communist totalitarian regimes to garbage, then cultural globalization would be akin to the raging hurricane that blows the garbage through the entire world, mercilessly sweeping away the traditional values that God's left for mankind. Here, we have focused on explaining the influence that the deviant culture from the West has on the world. In the next chapter, we will analyze how communist culture has spread throughout the world. Cultural globalization destroys traditions. The culture of every ethnicity in the world has unique characteristics and carries the deep influences of its own special history. Despite the differences between ethnic cultures, they all observe the same divinely bestowed universal values in their traditions. After the Industrial Revolution, technological development brought about convenience in our lives. Due to the influence of progressivism, tradition is generally regarded as backward. Measuring everything based on its modernness, novelty, and progress, or whether it has commercial value, is now standard. The so-called common values formed by cultural exchange in the process of globalization aren't from any particular tradition anymore, they are modern values. The elements and values that can be adopted in globalization deviate from traditions. They include only the crassest elements of existing cultural heritage, as well as the aspects that can be commercialized. Notions about the common destiny of mankind and our common future are the results of such deviated values. Communism promotes values that seem noble, but in fact are aimed at having mankind abandon traditional values, replacing them with homogeneous and deteriorated modern values instead. The lowest standard that is recognized globally during cultural globalization also manifests in consumer culture and consumerism, which lead global culture. Driven by economic interests, the design of cultural products and the way they are marketed are completely centered on appealing to consumers' base instincts. The aim is to control mankind by seducing, indulging, and satisfying people's superficial desires. A global consumer culture targets mankind's desires and is used to corrupt tradition in multiple ways. First, in order to attract the maximum number of consumers, cultural products cannot offend any ethnic group, in production or in presentation. As a result, the unique characteristic and meanings of the ethnic culture are removed from products. In other words, tradition is taken away from products through deculturalization, or standardization. Populations that receive less education and have less consumer power are more susceptible to such a simplified consumer model because the cost to make such products is lower. Hence, through globalization, this population is restricted to the commercial culture that has the lowest manufacturing cost. Second, the globalization of the media industry has led to monopolies. As a result, communist elements can easily make use of the degenerated ideas of the producers, advertise the superficial cultural aspect of the products, and introduce Marxist ideology while promoting them. The hybridization of cultures through globalization becomes another channel for promoting ideology. Third, a global culture makes consumerism the mainstream of society. Commercials, movies, television shows, and social media constantly bombard consumers with the idea that they are not living a real life if they don't consume, own certain products, or seek to be entertained in particular ways. Communism uses different means and entertainment to prompt people to pursue satisfying their desires. As people indulge their desires, they are moving away from the spiritual plane, and before they know it, they've deviated from their long-held divine beliefs and traditional values. The communism quickly spreads its deteriorated ideology amid the backdrop of globalization. It also utilizes the herd mentality. With frequent exposure to social media, commercials, television shows, movies, and news, people are bombarded with various anti-traditional and unnatural ideologies. This creates an illusion that such deteriorated ideologies represent a global consensus. People gradually become numb to the damage these ideologies have on traditions. Twisted behaviors are seen as fashionable, and people are supposed to take pride in them. Substance abuse, homosexuality, rock and roll, abstract art, and much more, all spread in this fashion. Modern art is degenerate and violates all traditional definitions of aesthetics. Some people may have realized this at first, but when works of modern art are constantly exhibited in major metropolitan areas and sold at high prices, when the media frequently reports on dark and strange artworks, people begin to believe that they're the ones who have fallen out of touch with fashion, and it's their taste in art that needs to be updated. People begin to negate their own sense of the beautiful and favor deteriorated art forms. Communism is able to utilize the herd mentality because many people do not have a strong will. Once mankind deviates from divinely imparted traditions, everything becomes relative and changes over time. The situation becomes ripe for exploitation. From Chapter 17, Globalization, Communism at its core.